My long-term forecast for Bitcoin is it goes up 29% a year on average for the next 21 years. And so I look out to the year 2045, and I think it's like, base case is 13 million a coin. And it could go faster, it could go slower. But when you think about that, you're like, well, every Bitcoin you sell is going to cost you $13 million. Or if you decide to go buy a Ferrari or a sports car with 3 or 4 Bitcoin or 5, it's a $65 million Ferrari.
Yeah.
So think really hard. Do you want the Ferrari, which will be good, may get you a few dates and people will think you're cool for the next few years. But would you rather have $65 million 20 years out? Because you can retire on that and live a very comfortable life. So
Bitcoin is in the midst of a massive bull run, breaking past the $100,000 mark and making headlines across the globe. The excitement around its potential is at an all-time high, and the question is, just how far can Bitcoin go? Michael Saylor, one of the most influential voices in the cryptocurrency space, believes the answer is truly groundbreaking. Saylor predicts that Bitcoin could hit an astonishing $13 million by 2045, with an average annual growth rate of 29% over the next 21 years. He emphasizes the importance of long-term thinking, urging investors to focus on the massive value Bitcoin could unlock in the future, rather than being swayed by short-term volatility. Selling now, he warns, could cost you the chance to build generational wealth. Yes, Bitcoin's path might be volatile, but its resilience and potential are undeniable. Saylor remains confident that this is just the beginning of a revolutionary financial journey. Now, let's dive into some clips of Michael Saylor himself as he shares his insights and wisdom on Bitcoin and the world of cryptocurrency. But before we do, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on the latest updates. Enjoy the video.
I do, actually. I think that Bitcoin is emerging as the world's reserve capital network. It is the dominant capital network of the world. So the dollar is the world's reserve currency. And you recall, I said money is currency if it's short-term medium exchange. It's capital if it's long-term store of value. And if I wanted to send $1 billion from one point on the earth to the other, right? The choice is ship $1 billion of gold, move $1 billion building, or send Bitcoin, or send $1 billion of paintings. You can see paintings aren't fungible. They don't make good money. A building isn't portable. It doesn't make good money. Gold, gold failed as a capital network 400 years ago when the King of Spain tried to send a bunch of gold to the Netherlands to finance his army. It got blocked by Queen Elizabeth. She bankrupted the Spanish army, and that's why the Netherlands is Protestant and not Catholic today. So it's pretty obvious. Bitcoin is a great capital network, and it's a great capital asset. It makes sense for the U.S. to own it, because if the U.S. owns that capital network, then anybody that wants to sell their Russian real estate or their Chinese natural gas fields is going to buy Bitcoin. So if you know where everybody's going, if you know everybody in the rest of the world is going to Bitcoin, and if you know everybody in the 20th century is going to trade their 20th century assets for 21st century assets, you might as well buy a big chunk of the network so that when they get there, you're the beneficiary of it. And I think Trump is a pretty good business person, and this is an economic brilliant stroke. So I think that they get it, they understand it, and we will see the U.S. Move very, very aggressively into Bitcoin at some point in time. The volatility is a gift to the faithful. The volatility, for example, I started buying Bitcoin and it soared up to 66,000. It crashed down to 40,000. It zoomed up to 60,000 something again. It crashed down to 16,000. It came back up, and all the way it was very volatile and uncertain. And we were able to go from $250 million in Bitcoin to buying 25 billion to having 42 billion in Bitcoin. And we took our company from 600 million in enterprise value to more than 100 billion.
Yeah.
If Bitcoin had been predictable, if Bitcoin had just grown 30% or 60% consistently, 5% a month or something, then Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Jamie Dimon, everybody in the world, Bill Gates, they all would have bought it. I wouldn't get any. I would have 1/25th as much. We wouldn't be a $100 billion company. We might be a $5 billion company. But the volatility was a gift to the faithful. It scares away the tourist. It scares away the lazy. It scares away the people that are already conventionally rich, that have all the money. If you're a 20-something or a 30-something and you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to spend 100 hours or 200 hours, if you have more time than money, then the volatility of Bitcoin is a gift to you. If you have more money than time and you're arrogant and egotistical and you just pick the obvious, then if the volatility goes away, you buy Bitcoin. If people in the rest of the world knew what I know and they understood and they agreed with me, Bitcoin would go to $10 million tomorrow. And if Bitcoin went to $10 million tomorrow, I want you to think about how you would feel and how your viewers would feel, because you would lose 20 years of stacking opportunity during which you get to buy at less than $10 million. So the difference between $10 million and 100,000, that's what you give up if the volatility goes away and people start to agree with you. So I'll end with just one thought, which is, in my life, I've made a bunch of very successful investments. I bought Facebook, I bought Apple, I bought Google, I bought Amazon, I bought Bitcoin. And there's a simple formula if you want to make 10x your money or even 100x your money. And this is the formula. Find something in the world everybody needs, nobody can stop, and few people understand. And if you find that, if it's like obvious, Amazon, Google, Facebook, iPhones, Bitcoin, digital capital, digital money, digital photos, digital relationships, digital video, if it's obvious and nobody can stop it, but you go and you talk to a bunch of people with more money than you, and they're older than you, and they're more successful than you, and they all say, I don't get it. I don't get it. Okay, at that point, the cowardly response, the loser response is, well, a lot of people told me to give up on it because they don't get it, so I won't get it. And the right response is, I'm going to study it and decide if they're wrong, and I'm going to make a decision for myself. And if I got it, if I bought Amazon when Wall Street hated it, if I bought Facebook and Google and Apple when Wall Street hated it, if I bought Bitcoin when Wall Street hated it, then I'm getting rich.
Charlie.
We say that Bitcoin is on a need-to-know basis. I think that people that discover Bitcoin, they discover it because they need to know about it. And so that need to know comes at different times for different individuals and different corporations and different jurisdictions. If you're living in hyperinflation in Argentina, then you have a need to know. So the Argentinians were some of the early Bitcoin adopters and big Bitcoin advocates. If you live in Nigeria and the currency collapses, or Lebanon and the bank freezes your assets, you're on a need to know. So normally it's people in struggling economies, they get it. And then a company that's well run, that's very successful, doesn't have a need to know. Very affluent on the Upper East Side of New York, don't necessarily have a need to know. They come a bit later. But when my company ran into travails and struggles during the COVID lockdowns of 2020, we had a need to know, and we started looking for a solution. So I would say that people adopt and embrace Bitcoin when they run into some challenge in their personal or professional life that causes them to open their mind and think, I need a new idea. I need to embrace a new way in order to move forward with life. I think in March of 2020, during the COVID panic and the lockdowns, the economy came to a grinding halt. Everybody went home. We had the 15 days to stop the spread. There was a lot of anxiety in the economy. And then we saw interest rates get taken to zero. And it's almost like the economy just stopped. I mean, traffic stopped, cruise ships stopped, airplanes stopped, restaurants closed, hotels closed. Interest rates went to zero. And I was sitting in front of my pool in Miami Beach, and it was just dead calm. But I was watching CNBC, and in CNBC, at some point, it became clear that that if you actually were in Wall Street or you owned a bunch of financial assets, you're probably going to be okay. But if you're on Main Street and you're trying to actually do things like run a restaurant or a yoga salon, you were going to have a bad year. And so at that point I said, well, I have all this cash and it's worthless, like zero interest rates. And the central banker said, we're not even thinking about raising interest rates for 4 years. So you have a non-performing asset. And then I looked at the government basically printing money. I thought if we shut down the economy for 2 years, that's going to cost a lot of money. And that's going to get printed. And so I saw hyperinflation, coming at the end of those lockdowns. And I noticed my money was a melting ice cube. And I thought, well, I need to do something with the money before it becomes worth 40% less. And that's the point where I said to a friend of mine, so tell me about that Bitcoin thing again. I think when I was thinking about it, it was 4,000 or 5,000 a coin for Bitcoin. And when we started buying it in size, it was in the mid 9,000s and 10,000, 11,000. And it's 10x since then. But to be clear, the brilliant idea of Bitcoin is digital property. It's Cyber Manhattan. I've created a city in cyberspace that's 276 blocks wide, 276 blocks high, 276 blocks deep. You're buying 1/21 millionth of all the money that there's ever going to be in cyberspace. And one day, the 8 billion people are going to want to put some of their money there. And it's the most simple idea imaginable. Do you want to buy 1/21 millionth of all the money in the world for all of eternity? Like the product's going to be the same in 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years. So think of it like, buying Manhattan in 1750 and you're 100 years late. And someone goes, you're 100 years late. The guy that's selling you the building paid less than you're going to pay. Aren't you afraid you're overpaying? And it's like, well, I'm going to dump it to a guy in 1770 for more. And that's stupid because you should buy it every year from 1650 to today. And it's the greatest city in America. So why wouldn't you want to own 67 blocks of Manhattan? Just like why wouldn't you own 67 blocks of Bitcoin? So you're never going to be too late if you understand that the future digital economy is going to be built on top of 21 million blocks of Bitcoin. So I'm not going to give you an exact date. I will just tell you I think it's 13 million in the year 2045. I think it'll grow between 30 and 60% a year for the next 5 to 10 years. And then I think it's growing 60% a year right now. I think it will decelerate to be growing 20% a year 21 years out. And so it could surge up, quite quickly over the next 4 years, and you would get there in 4 to 8 years. But, it's very volatile. It takes a random path, and we can't be quite sure. So I think I would take a more open-minded view. I would just assume that it's going to keep grinding up. It'll surge up. It'll smash down. It'll do the serpentine thing. And the volatility is good because if it was straight line growing and everybody saw that it was very predictable, then a bunch of people richer than you that you don't like would just buy it all and you wouldn't be able to get any.
And that wraps up our journey into Michael Saylor's bold predictions and insights on Bitcoin's future. With Bitcoin already surpassing $100,000 and poised for exponential growth, it's clear we're witnessing the rise of a transformative financial asset. Saylor's vision of $13 million by 2045, fueled by an average annual growth of 29%, highlights the power of long-term investing and the immense potential of cryptocurrency. His advice to hold rather than sell serves as a reminder that patience and belief in Bitcoin's future could lead to life-changing wealth. While volatility may come and go, the bigger picture is clear. Bitcoin is here to redefine the global financial landscape. What do you think? Are you ready to embrace the journey and hold for the long term? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, share it with fellow crypto enthusiasts, and subscribe to the channel for more expert insights and updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.